this week we've got some anime news to cover with you. The first bit is Overlord Season 3 has not only been announced, but it's going to be airing in July.
Already?
Yeah.
This year.
This year. It's going to be airing in July. Which kind of surprises me, because wasn't Season 2 just like winter of last year? It's pretty new.
Yeah, I mean, just a half-year gap between the two. It must be incredibly popular.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull it up. Let's see when Overlord Season 2... Actually, it's this year. Overlord Season 2, the last episode aired today. And it started in January of 2018. So Season 3 is only, what, April, May, June... That's not far off at all. That's crazy. That's what the article said it was June this year? No, July. So May, June, July. So that's 3 months.
3 months and we get more Overlord.
3 months. And
they're spoiling us.
Possibly. But it looks like I'm not actually seeing who will stream it, but Crunchyroll had seasons 1 and 2, so I'd be surprised if they didn't have season 3 as well.
Right.
So, it looks like Funimation is going to be doing the English dub for season 3 as well. But yeah, they season 2 just barely ending today, and as they ended it today, they announced season 3 coming out in July. That's nuts. That is nuts. Let me go ahead and pull up Crunchyroll here and just see how many episodes. Because we're currently watching it. Every other Friday we try to get together and just watch some anime together.
Yeah.
And we're currently watching Overlord Season 2. And we got about 5 episodes in one night for the next season.
Right.
Let's see how many episodes of Overlord 2 there are. Okay, I guess I just have it all under Overlord. But let's take a look here. I'm not seeing it in my... Oh, here it is. Oh, so we watched the first 6 episodes. We're on episode 7.
Right.
Come on, Crunchyroll app. Don't do this to me now. This is for great radio. Whatever, it's fine. Can look it up later. Anyways, we watched the first 6 episodes, and season 3 is coming out in July. That's crazy how fast season 3 is coming out. I kind of wish some other shows had a season 3 as quickly as Overlord did. Anyways, the next bit of news that I'd like for us to go over today. Crunchyroll has the rights to Lupin the Third 5.
They made a Lupin the Third Part 5.
Yep. This one covers how Lupin became Lupin. How he became the greatest thief in the world.
So it's kind of a prequel series.
Kind of a prequel series, yeah. But for those of you who don't know who Lupin is one of the most iconic characters in all of anime. Unfortunately, here in the States, not very many people know who he is. But he's been around for 50 some odd years in Japan. And on Crunchyroll, they have the 4 Lupin the Third shows. They have another series called, I think it's a woman named Fujiko, which is kind of a spin-off series that focuses on the woman, his on-again, off-again lover / rival.
Right.
Yeah, Fujiko Mine. But yeah, they are actually the first episode aired today, and Crunchyroll has it, as well as Hulu, and I want to say Amazon Prime has it as well.
Wow.
I don't know if they have it in... Those were on the Japanese website, though. I went to the Japanese website and I saw that their web services included Hulu and Amazon Prime.
So those might be regional. It's possible that they won't have them.
Could just be a regional thing. And I hadn't bothered to pull it up and check, but this is from Anime News Network saying that Crunchyroll is streaming Lupin the Third, and today being Lupin the Third Part 5, and today being April 3rd, it starts today.
Fantastic.
So, for those of you who are not in the know about Lupin, Miyazaki's first movie, Hayao Miyazaki's first movie, was actually Lupin the Third, The Castle of Cagliostro.
That's right.
So that's how that launched his career as a director. And it's kind of fascinating to see... I don't really want to get into the discussion about it now, But it's fascinating to see what anime movies were before Lupin the Third Castle of Cagliostro and after Lupin the Third Castle of Cagliostro.
Yes,
Because a lot of people couldn't believe, like even in Japan, a lot of people could not believe that Lupin, that could be drawn, what they did with Lupin the Third Castle of Cagliostro.
Yes.
So yeah, those of you who haven't watched it, go give it a watch. It's a fantastic movie. And I'm excited to watch Lupin the Third Part 5. I have to admit, though, I actually have not watched parts 1 through 4 yet because there's just so much of it. It's kind of daunting, but I have made it a personal goal of mine to watch all of Lupin the Third, except for the movies aren't available in English yet, but it's a goal of mine to watch all of Lupin the Third. So I've been working on that, kind of chiseling away at it as I grind in Fire Emblem some nights. Another tidbit of news, the last bit. This is something that's kind of exciting. I hope the States get some of this. But Record of Lodoss War's 30th anniversary is this year.
It's already 30 years old? Oh.
Yeah. Record of Lodoss War is 30 years old. And one of the great things about it, I love Dungeons and Dragons. I love role playing. I know you do too.
Of course.
It's so much fun to get around and just tell a story with your friends.
Yes.
Lupin. No, not sorry. I'm still on Lupin. Record of Lodoss War started off as pretty much a Dungeons and Dragons game that someone started to write down, and as they wrote it down, they eventually turned it into the manga and into the story, which became Record of Lodoss War. The first one was released in 1988. So
88.
Yeah, so I'm very, very happy that the fact that people are celebrating it. Apparently, it was announced someone got the rights to re-release it. I'm just skimming the article now. But again, this is another article on Anime News Network.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm very excited that people are talking about it, that people are celebrating the 30th anniversary of it. Because I would like to see more love for this show, especially here in the States, especially with how revolutionary of a show it was at the time when it first came out. But for those of you who are turning your Dungeons and Dragons stories into books, it's possible. It happens. We see Record of Lodoss War here that's gone on to sell 10 million copies of books worldwide.
Yes.
And then we have, the Dragonlance novels by Tracy Hickman and Margaret Wise.
That's correct.
That started off as a D&D campaign as well.
Yes.
But of course, you need to be able to hide the dice rolling. I mean, I can't tell you how many books or short stories I've written where I'm just like, okay, and now I can hear the dice rolling in my head.
Yeah.
Or the party gets together and has an awkward conversation in a tavern. Yeah. And decides to go off on a quest together. And I'm just like, hide it a bit better than that, guys. Come on.
Right.
You can go ahead and use inspiration from your stories and stuff like that, from your role-playing sessions, but hide the fact that it's Dungeons and Dragons.
You've got to have solid character motivations in your story. Otherwise, you're going to lose your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just true from any medium and from any source of inspiration. Is that if you start having people do things because you want them doing that in your story, and you don't give them a why, you're robbing your own audience of a chance to identify with the characters that you love and that you've put so much of your time and effort into producing content featuring them. So, sure. Sometimes it's a very delicate balancing act between making sure every character has a valid motivation and trying to get these epic events that have happened in your games, in your media, to transpire. And yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I am saying it will be worth it. If you can have solid motivations for your characters, do it.
writing is more than just motivations for characters, but that's something we can go ahead and discuss at a later date.
Sure.
Anyways,
But you know, you have these characters, and it's more than just the dice rolling. You can feel the DM railroading the story as well, trying to get things to happen, and you can sense the players, fighting that as hard as they can as well, derailing as much as possible, depending on the different games. So,
whereas with my DM style, there's no way for them to railroad it because most of the time I just improv it anyways. So, that takes a lot of work though, and you have to take a lot of notes afterwards in order to keep things straight. Anyways, that's it for the news. And if there's anything else you wanted to cover today before we moved on to 3 episodes in?
That actually covers everything that I knew about this week.
Okay.
Yeah, the Lotus War thing, the Overlord thing, the Lupin thing. Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
So we can move on to 3 episodes in.
Awesome. This week we watched A Certain Scientific Index. And oh boy, what a ride those first 3 episodes were.
They certainly brought us into a story. I want to see more.
Yeah, I definitely want to see more. Anyways, real fast, gonna go ahead and just go over the characters real quick.
Yes.
We've got Kajima Toma, who's the main character. We have Misaka Mikoto. They say her name only a couple of times, but she's the girl who has the railgun ability, where she is able to supercharge.
She has some sort of electricity powers, and she can shoot. Using it, she can shoot a coin at 3 times the speed of sound. So they call her a living railgun.
Yeah, she's a living railgun. And we have Index. She has the ability to have photographic memory. We've got their lowly teacher, Miss Komoe, which I thought the name for her was hysterical.
Oh.
Because, do you know what Moe is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, for our listeners who don't know what Moe is, it's something that's just naturally, absurdly cute.
Yes.
But not cute that makes you want to go blah. It's cute that makes you want to go, oh, that kind of thing.
Yeah, heart attack inducing cute.
Yeah. Then again, there's so much more to Moe than that. Moe is just one of those things that it's hard to kind of pin down a good definition for, but really it's something that's just kind of absurdly, wonderfully cute.
Yes.
And Ko also means child. So this might not be the intent. I have not seen the kanji for her name, but Ko Moe is her name. So
ridiculously cute child.
Pretty much, or child of ridiculous cuteness. Yep, exactly. And she is an absolute delight. They also have some other characters they haven't named yet, but we also meet Still Magnus, a redheaded sorcerer, and then at the very end of episode 3, we meet Kanzaki Kaori, who's a purple-haired sorceress.
Katana wielding, wearing not a pair of jeans, just a jean.
She's wearing half a jean, and the other half is like a super short.
Yeah, it's half Daisy Duke, half long jean.
It's one of those very, very odd anime dress styles that just make you go, what?
Yeah. Somebody thought it looked cool drawn, and I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's one of those things that people wouldn't wear that.
But right off the bat, this show just sucks you right in. Like, the very first thing you see is we see Kajima running away from a group of thugs, and then it cuts back a little bit, and he's gone up to protect a girl from a thug, and he is talking about how he is living the unluckiest. He's got an internal monologue going while he's running from them, kind of like one of those I bet you're wondering how I got here situations, but he doesn't do that. He just says, I am living the unluckiest life in the world, pretty much. And he walks up, he's kind of in this restaurant, and he sees this high school student being picked on, not really being picked on, but being hit on by a thug.
Yes, some ne'er-do-well seems to be pushing himself onto this girl.
And he decides to go up and talk to the thug. And he says, hey, don't you think you're disturbing her? And as soon as he says that, the thug's gang walks out of the bathroom behind him and walks up. And like,
half dozen of them, all at once, going, who are you? What do you want?
And then it cuts back to the chase scene.
He's running away from them.
He's running away from them. And he stops, and then he's catching his breath, and he turns around, and he sees the girl walking up. And this girl is actually Misaka.
Yes, the railgun.
Well, yes, we don't know that at this point, though. But
we've already introduced the character.
Yeah, we've already introduced the character. Though notice I have not mentioned Kajima's power, because that's an integral plot point that I kind of want to get to when we get to that point.
Yes.
But anyways, he says, she's like, did you think you were like, protecting me from them? And he was just like, no, I was protecting them from you. Turns out she's one of the, what they call a level 5 Esper. And there's only a handful of them in all of this school city that all these people live in. And he says you really shouldn't look down on people just because you are so, you're so much more powerful than them. And she says, only somebody as powerful as you gets to say something like that to me. And then she goes and she shoots him with a railgun bolt shot of hers.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts up his right hand and catches it. And that's where it cuts.
Yeah.
After he's already blocked an attack of hers. And she's just like, that he's blocked one attack from her. And then she says how... Oh, that's right. I apologize. I got mixed up. He catches the attack. And then that's when she says, only somebody as powerful as you can get away with saying something like that to me. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a normal high school student. She says, yeah, you just took a full-on shot from me without it even singeing you, which is a little bit not true because his clothes are a bit ruffled and a bit singed here and there, but he's physically just fine.
Yeah.
And then it's implied that they have an ongoing fight between the two of them where she's constantly trying to prove herself the better.
Yes. And
camera cuts out and there's this massive electrical discharge from the sky. And one of the cool things they do about her is that when she's fighting, it's just every once in a while, electricity will just spark off of her because she's just this natural walking conduit.
Yes.
And then it cuts. And then we go to the next day, and I actually kind of think this is a good moment to bring in the new segment that we kind of discussed last time called 10 Great Things About. So while we're doing 3 episodes in, we decided that we're also going to go ahead and each come up with 5 things that we really enjoyed about the first 10 episodes. First 3 episodes.
First 3 episodes, yes.
And this is my first one that I want to bring up.
Yes.
Anyways, he gets up and he's just like, oh crap, I guess I'm late for school. He goes up and it turns out her electric discharge knocked out the power in
his apartment.
Not only that, but it completely fried his refrigerator, and like he had bought a sandwich and was going to eat it and the sandwich had gone bad and all this stuff. And he keeps tripping and falling over stuff because he's just this incredibly unlucky person. And he says, well, you know what? The weather's really, really nice right now. I think I'm going to go ahead and air out my futon. And he rolls up his futon and he opens up the window and he says, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't. It's probably going to rain if I put my futon out. And then he looks and he sees this lump of white hanging over his banister. And he says, oh, I guess I already put my futon out.
But he's holding it in his hands.
As he's holding the futon in his hands. And that, to me, was the first thing that I liked about the show, was just that one joke. That, I don't know, maybe just spoke to my sense of humor really, really well. But he's just like, oh, I guess I'm already hung it out, as he's holding this futon in his hands.
And it's a girl.
And then he realizes that it's a girl in a white outfit.
Draped over the railing of his veranda.
And eventually, like, he asks her how she got there, and she says, oh, I jumped. And she jumped from the roof of a nearby building to try to get to the roof of his building, and he's 8 stories up, and he's not at the top of his building.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, that's how we meet Index.
Yes. And he brings her in. And like what her first words to him are like, I'm hungry. I'm very hungry. I'm hungry. Feed me.
It's like, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Feed me. Feed me. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Feed me.
So he takes care of her and
He
feeds her,
he feeds her rotten food.
which she gladly takes, thinking that it's the most flavorful thing she's
She's
ever
like,
eaten.
"Oh wow, how did you make this salad sour?" And he's just like, "Ooh, wow, yeah, let's not touch that again."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, this salad is so delicious. How did you make it so sour?" And he's like, "I didn't make it." And he says to himself, "I didn't make it sour. I just put it together with rotten food from the fridge." And then he realizes he's feeding this girl rotten food, feels bad about it, and then eats it himself and passes out.
Yes, he gives himself food poisoning to try to save her life, but she seems to be completely immune to the problems with his food.
Yeah, yeah. Um. Anyways, this girl starts talking about how, people are after her because she has 103,000 grimoires.
Yes. The
Those,
contents of magical books.
Yep, the contents of 103,000 magical books or grimoires.
Yeah.
Um,
Stored away in her memory.
Stored away in her memory, yep. She,
She's a little vague on that point, but that is where it is.
Yep, she's a little vague on that. But she, anyways, she, he starts talking about how magic doesn't exist, and she's just like, "You believe that supernatural abilities exist, but you don't believe in magic?" And he's like, "Well, they're two completely different things, of course. Like, one's scientific, the other's magical." And she's like, she refuses to, she doesn't back down. Anyways.
Yeah, she starts griping with him and arguing with him over the nature of divine powers and calling him a sissy non-believer and abusing him along those lines, and then reveals that the robe she's wearing is an exact duplicate of the Shroud of Turin, and that it's a holy artifact
that prevents her from both magical and physical damage while she's wearing it.
Yes. And we've established that his power is the cancellation of other people's powers.
Well, we hadn't established that.
It's what he says it is.
It's what he says it is during this conversation. He says that I have the ability to cancel out other people's powers. It's what I can do.
And so he knows it works on espers, but he's never met magic or divine powers before, but he just assumes that's probably what's going to happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so she provokes him, and he responds by rushing up to her and placing his hand on her shoulder. And it takes a moment before her clothes explode.
Yeah, her clothes explode. Mm-hmm. And he honestly feels bad for it. But
her method of retaliation is one of the first is number 8 on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time that she starts biting him in retaliation.
And this is a running gag throughout the first 3 episodes at least.
Anytime he upsets her, the next thing you see is little dotted semicircles in blue all over his body of places that she's bruised from her teeth marks.
And while it doesn't show it while she normally smiles, there's a couple of times where it shows that she has a single fang.
Yes,
and
she has a snaggletooth fang.
And when she goes, ha, and getting ready to bite him and stuff. So yes. Yeah. But yeah, whenever he upsets her, her retaliation is that she bites him. And yeah, there's purple bite marks, all comedic bite marks. It's not like violent bleeding, anything like that.
No.
But yeah, it's yeah, that's the first time.
But they're excessive. They're all over him, all of his face and arms, and it's hilarious.
It's a pretty good joke, not gonna lie. It's a pretty good joke where he's just covered in bite marks. And just think how... Up. And she's a lot smaller than he is.
Yes,
she is a lot smaller than he is, so you're wondering how on earth she got to some of those places to bite.
Clearly knocked him down.
Mm-hmm. Anyways,
so they resolve the situation by her using safety pins to pin her shirt back together, and that becomes a part of her character design from then on out.
She's got 3 massive safety pins,
giant gold safety pins on her ropes. But she leaves, and he goes to class.
But when she leaves, she realizes she left behind her hood.
Yes,
he left behind her hood. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to class, and this is where one of my comments come in. We meet the lowly teacher. Their teacher, Miss Komoe, is a lowly. She is probably in her mid-30s, I would assume, by the lifestyle we see that she's doing later on.
But she is the character type of an 8-year-old. She has the body of an 8-year-old in anime.
And she acts like it too.
Yes.
Like he apparently, real fast, before we get into this, Index says that your power is not canceling out abilities. What does she say? I forget what it is. But she clearly defines what I should have written it down. But she defines what his ability is, and it's a lot more than he thinks it is, and it's a lot more. And the reason he's so unlucky is because of his right hand.
Yes, his right hand somehow defies the laws of God, and God can't give him luck.
Yep, God cannot give him luck, so he's just I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's his right hand pretty much does the like. You know, he touches a spell and that spell goes away.
Yes.
Type thing. So that's what his ability is. He is a terrible student apparently.
And he's taking remedial classes.
He has to take a remedial class during summer, and he goes and he goes to class, and as he's wondering what he's supposed to do about this girl.
He's off daydreaming, looking out the window.
He's off daydreaming, looking out the window, and it turns out like the girl's tennis club is practicing.
Just happens to be.
And this is after the teacher's like been putting notes up on the board and telling them that kind of teasing them for their terrible scores and stuff like that for their tests. And all the students love her. They think she's just the most adorable thing. And he turns out the window and is just thinking about this. And one of the students says, "Oh, teacher, Kajima is distracted by oogling the girls in the tennis club." And he turns and he looks at the teacher, Miss Komoe, and she's just got the saddest look in her eyes. She's so heartbroken, and she starts crying, and everyone in the class gets so pissed, being like, "You made her cry, how dare you!" And it's so funny. I had to pause it because I was laughing so hard, and I was trying to take notes on it and stuff.
She was playing the entire room.
Possibly. I mean, we don't know much about her real character. Maybe that's just how she is, or maybe she was just, that's how she acts to get sympathy from students.
Yes.
We don't know more than that at this point. I think it'd be hysterical if it was the latter.
Yes.
But I definitely want to watch more than those episodes. As he was at school pretty late, and then on his way home, he runs across. Let me get her name again. He comes across Misaka, who is the railgun
girl. Yeah.
And she wants a rematch, and he's just like, "Nope. No, it's okay. And because, I didn't actually beat you. I just canceled out your powers. Right. So really it was a draw." And she would not accept that, and she got mad, and she stomped the ground. And this city, I guess this is a good time to establish that this city, I said earlier, this is a school city.
Yes.
This is a world with espers, people with psychic abilities.
And so any child who's been found to have psychic abilities ends up getting shipped to this city to learn how to use them in an environment where they can practice.
And not only that, but an environment where they can have kind of a normal life, where they can interact with other kids and just, go to school, go shopping, live on their own and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this city, I believe they call it a school city. I could be wrong about it.
Academic city or something
Academic
like that.
city, something like that. This city, because it's populated mostly by students who go to school, there are robots and things that will clean up the city and do things that typically, city workers would do. Anyways, they, as she stomps the ground because she's pissed at him, in a very tsundere manner, I feel, by the way, she lets out an electronic surge, and that knocks over several of the robots. And
blows out a handful of cell phones in the area.
Blows out some cell phones in the area. Well, it's illegal to use your powers in a violent manner. So those robots send off an alarm, and the two of them end up running off.
Yes.
As he gets home that night, he comes across some robots just kind of trying to clean something up, and he doesn't really know what it is, and he gets closer, and he sees the bleeding out body of Index.
Yes, she's surrounded by those cleaning robots, and she's lying face down in the concrete hall. They're in these high-rise buildings that are open out to the air on one side, so it's that halfway up is concrete fence, and then or railing, and then
Mm-hmm.
open air. And so he's there walking to his apartment in this area, and there she is on the floor, face down, with a great big um, bloody wound on her
Mm-hmm.
back, and she's unconscious,
Mm-hmm.
apparently.
Yeah.
And when he's about to render her aid, that's when he's interrupted by a new figure that we just introduced, and that's your cliffhanger for episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then going into episode 2, we find out who this person is.
And that person is Style, Stiyl,
Yeah.
however they want to pronounce it, Magnus. He's a
Wow.
red-headed sorcerer. He actually looks a bit like Axel from Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay.
I mean, not the spiky hair,
Mm.
but he has like the black robe and kind of fire abilities and stuff like that.
Right.
Long red hair. But this actually kind of brings us to another mark that I wanted to bring up for 10 Things Great About. Sorcerers do not give their real names. And they don't say why. But for people who have kind of studied magics and, the history of magic and folklore and myth and things like that, giving somebody who knows magic your real name would give them power over you in the old magic.
Right.
That's Adamic magic, where Adam gave creatures their true names, and as such was made a ruler over them.
Mm.
So if you know somebody's true name, you have dominion over that person. So they don't really mention that in the show, but I would not be surprised if that's what they went into. And that just kind of got my history and myth nerd blood pumping. I love it when they put facts like that in.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell us about what this guy is and kind of what his purpose is?
Okay, so he seems to be a fire mage. And he's part of a group that is sent to collect index for the library that is in her head.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which they reveal at this point because Kojima doesn't believe that she has those books. He's like, how on earth does this little girl have these books?
Yeah.
Well, it's in her head.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's when that moment is revealed, and Kojima, playing his personality type of getting involved and trying to help people, ends up trying to fight this mage, and the mage just starts. So the mage is smoking a cigarette, tosses it over the railing. It falls a couple stories before he starts casting, and he pulls the flames from his cigarette into a fireball, collects it back to himself, and then throws it at him. And that's when he discovers that, yes, his right hand also cancels magic spells.
He didn't know that before. Yeah, he was very, very afraid because he knew it canceled out abilities, which is what they mean by espers, but he was never able to cancel out magic. And this might be a good point to explain what the difference is between magic and abilities, because this is something that Index explains. I don't exactly remember where she explains it, but abilities, they're people who naturally have talents. They're espers. They're people like Railgun or Misaka, where she is able to generate lightning or electrical discharges and things like that, and because of that, she's able to pretty much be a living railgun. Kojima, he has the ability to cancel things out. He has the ability to negate everything, including God's luck.
Right.
So she tells him that you pretty much can't cast anyway, and then magic was made by people who wanted those abilities but did not have them naturally.
Right.
So espers cannot use magic. Magic was built and made by people who
were not espers but wanted to be able to do something.
Yep. And so that's the difference between magic and abilities.
Right.
But it's revealed here that Index, she has the ability to have a perfect photographic memory. She sees something once and she never forgets it. That's how she has 103,000 grimoires in her head.
Right.
And because she has all that knowledge in her head, and because she has abilities and therefore cannot use magic, they're completely harmless, which is why they let her memorize them. Why they had the church that she's with.
Yes.
The Church of...
The Church of Necessary Evil.
The Church of Necessary Evil. They believe that they're a splinter group.
To understand... Mm-hmm. To understand the creatures of darkness, your mind becomes tainted. To confront creatures of darkness, your body becomes tainted.
Mm-hmm.
So they are the Church of Necessary Evil.
They believe that magic and things like that are evil,
mm-hmm.
but in order to combat it, they need to know it.
Yes.
So they need to know what they're fighting against.
Right.
So they're the Church of Necessary Evil. They're a splinter group from the
Necessarius.
Puritans.
They call them Necessarius.
Necessarius.
Or something like that.
Was it the English Puritans?
Yes, they were the English Puritans, because England was a land of magic.
Yep, England was a land of magic. It reminds me of the Robin Williams joke. The Puritans, how annoying do you have to be to get the British to kick you out?
How stuck up do you have to be?
How stuck up do you have to be to get the British to kick you out? Or maybe it was the English, I don't remember. Anyways.
Yeah, just he was referring to early American settlers having been pilgrims seeking religious freedom. No, the British kicked them out.
But anyways, Kajima fights Magnus.
Yeah.
And Magnus keeps getting frustrated because this kid just keeps negating his spells.
Right.
And so he summons a creature. I didn't write down the name, but it was like a fire demon.
It was a fire demon, and in order to summon him, it required a bunch of runes being nearby.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
at first, so the creature charges at our hero.
Mm-hmm.
And our hero is able to deflect him with his right hand, but then it rematerializes behind him. And he's wondering why this thing's still around. The thing summons a flaming cross type weapon and strikes at him, and he holds his hand up and he's holding back the weapon, but it's not disappearing. Every moment that it feels like it should dissipate, it's regenerating at the same time.
And he's watching it happen. It's not just feeling it, but he watches it and he realizes that's what's happening.
Yes.
But as he that's when we learned about the runes and stuff, because he's wondering how on earth this thing can still be around. Well, it's because all these magical runes have been placed around the place.
And this is something we find out about Index, is that while her she has some sort of split personality or something going on with her, that one of the reasons she's called Index is that she can, like a search engine, or like the index in the back of a book, or the card catalog of a library, she can recite the knowledge that's in her brain word for word, but she loses her main personality while doing it. She becomes monotone, robotic as she's doing it. And so it's like her main personality is still unconscious, but a defense mechanism that's inside of her activates and explains and does the only thing that it is capable of doing to defend itself. It's explaining the situation to somebody who's trying to help. And that's how we find out about the runes. And we find out that because runes are in place all around the building, unless he gets rid of all of them, this creature is tied to the building and is not going away.
Yeah, and as he goes and he finds the runes, there's just dozens of them, taped all over the place.
Yes. They're not etched in or carved or anything. They're printed. They're like hundreds of copies of printed paper taped all over the place. Plastered.
And he tries to get rid of some, but as he's working to get rid of them, the demon once again shows up and attacks him. But because the runes are what the demon is, what's powering the demon, the runes aren't harmed by the demon. Anyways, he goes and he starts running, and he realizes that this demon um, isn't following him when he leaves the building. It throws something at him, but the demon is bound to that area because of those runes. And so he's wondering what on earth he's gonna do, because this girl, the reason she came back to the apartment is because she realized she left her hood behind.
Yes.
And because her garments are magical, people can use magic to find them. And she realizes that she had put him in danger. So she goes and she gets it, or tries to get it, but she's attacked when she does. And he realizes this, and he realizes that he can't leave her there, so he goes back into the building to fight the demon. And next thing we see is that the sprinklers get turned on, and the sorcerer's just like, oh, come on, really? That thing goes at 3,000 degrees.
This is the reason why I'm wet right now, is somebody pulled the sprinkler system.
But anyways, the demon shows up again.
Yep.
But Kajima's just like, no, the water wasn't to put out the fire. The water was to get rid of the runes.
Well, this isn't tissue paper. This is printer paper. This water's not just going to wash it away.
You're absolutely right, but what about the ink?
And that's when the ink starts washing off of the paper.
That's when
it destroys the.
Because anybody who's dropped a laser printed document into a puddle of water knows that as soon as it touches that water, the ink's just going to run, and it will still be legible, but it won't be the same as it was. And for runes, they have to be precise. They have to be exact. So
a
laser
brick.
printing them is super easy, and you get a lot of it, but a simple brick is just going to ruin them.
And there it is.
And so he then punches the sorcerer.
Yep.
Who can't light his fire because of the sprinklers, and he picks up Index and goes, and he takes Index to the one place where she can be safe for the next little bit, and that's Miss Komoe's apartment. And in Miss Komoe's apartment, we learn that she's not as cute and as adorable as she claims to be, yet at the same time she is, because she comes to the door wearing a bunny suit set of pajamas. Possibly because it's one of the few things in her size. But she runs to clean her apartment that is filled with empty beer cans and disposed cigarette butts.
She has a cigarette ashtray so filled with cigarette butts it looks like a onion blossom.
So our adorable little Moe teacher is a heavy drinker and a chain smoker. And for me, that was amazing. Holy cow. Oh, and real fast.
And then she talks to our main character as though she's asking if that's a deal breaker. It's like, you don't mind if I smoke, do you?
And she says, you don't find some women who smoke unattractive or something like along those lines. And then he reminds her that, he brought a girl here bleeding and needs help.
Yeah.
Anyways, real fast, one of the things that I brought for the 10 great things about was removing the runes to the sprinkler system, because that was just amazing. That was genius.
Yes.
That was really, really cool. That's where the episode kind of ends.
Right. Bringing her in to help, to get help.
And, but her second personality is still active. So the original girl, Index's original personality is still unconscious.
It's still dormant.
But she says, Miss Komoe says we need to call an ambulance right now, and then Index says unless the ambulance will be here in 15 minutes and can revitalize me, stabilize me, restore my magic, and do my mana, and do all these things, this body's gonna die.
Yeah, but she has, but the reason that she was brought to the teacher was the teacher was not an Esper. She has no Esper powers, and so it's possible that she could be helpful in casting magic.
She's one of the few non-Espers in this city.
Yes. And so that's why he was brought. That's why they brought Index to her.
She probably also fits in being this super tiny little teacher, that could be a reason why she's in the city. Actually, she's this. It's kind of a city of outcasts when you think about it. I mean, not really outcasts, but it's a city where
It's
people
a
don't
city
really
where
fit in elsewhere.
the abnormal is acceptable.
The abnormal is normal.
Yeah.
And her being so tiny.
Yes, her being a 30-year-old lowly girl.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Anyways, so and as much as Kojima wants to help,
30-year-old chain-smoking lowly girl.
gosh, as much as Kojima wants to help, he can't because he can't even stay in the room because his power will make the healing spell they're going to attempt fail.
And that brings us to one of my other top 10 items on this list is that our hero has faults, flaws, and sometimes fails. He can't be there for the girl that he's trying to protect at the moment she needs healing because his very presence there would cause her to continue to die.
And he also blames himself because it happened at his apartment.
It happened at his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
It happened because she left something at his place. It
That
happened
he
because
knew she left and he didn't bother to try to get it to her.
Yeah, and because she wanted to keep him... She's in danger because she wanted to keep him safe.
Mm-hmm.
So he should have been more of a man and found a way of keeping her safe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the fact that our hero... he isn't a one-trick pony that solves all of his problems all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like the problem they had with the summoned fire demon. He didn't just dispel it all at once. He needed to find a solution to that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that he couldn't just learn magic and help her heal as well. He wasn't the end-all be-all of all problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes him a more interesting character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was on my top 10 things that are great about this show.
Yeah, no. And there's a couple other things that we need to cover too real fast. But one of mine, my fifth and my final one, is casting the spell in episode 3. I just loved that entire sequence.
Tell us about it.
Well, what happens is that using just kind of miniature items throughout the entire room, and after drawing a magical circle on the table with her own blood, with, oh my gosh, that's a lot of blood, they recreated the room inside of this circle, and then after Index sang a little bit and Komoe joined her, the room was linked to the table, and we saw that by Komoe accidentally kicking the table, and that made the entire room shake with it.
Yes, the table became an avatar for the room, and what happened on the table happened in the room, and what happens in the room happens on the table.
And we see one of the figurines, this little frog figurine that's being used for Index, we see its back kind of blistering and boiling and having a lot of damage on it and starting to melt.
Yes.
All the while Index is getting worse. But we see the next step is to summon an angel. But not really summoning an angel. They're just kind of creating an angel from their own minds. And Komoe fails the first time, but she says it's okay. We can go ahead and just try it again. The room is being protected by Undine. Oh, that's right. Before that, we learned that the teacher has a perfect internal clock that she uses to regulate by exercise, meal times, and things like that. Yes,
she doesn't need a clock in her house because she's accurate to the second of what time it actually is.
Yep, and then she she changes. Well, she doesn't. She hasn't drawn the circle out yet at this time. But by knowing what constellations were in which part of the sky, she said, okay, well then I need Undine to protect us with this, and then I need this to happen, and she then drew out this magical circle with the runes in it necessary for the spell, and she said, okay, well after the teacher failed creating the angel the first time, the Index said it's okay, as long as we have Undine's protection we can go ahead and try a few more times. And then they did it again. Second time it worked, and we see that she's healed after the spell has been cast, and the back of the frog has been fully restored. And Index then falls asleep because while she's healed, it's still an exhausting process. And after she's healed, her other personality announces that it is going back into recession and will come back again when needed.
Yep.
So after that, Index wakes up and the teacher says, hey, we need to... I've got lots of questions I'm going to have to ask you guys about what's going on here because you guys are probably going to be in a whole lot of trouble. And as your teacher, I need to be able to help you. But I'm going to go buy food right now. And who knows, maybe I'll be so distracted by buying food, I'll forget the questions I need to ask you.
So don't let me forget that.
Yeah.
But...
That wasn't really... I didn't see that as don't let me forget that. That was me seeing that...
No, she says don't let me forget that, but she doesn't mean it.
Yeah, she doesn't mean it. She's like, so don't let me forget that. And they're like, yeah, she forgot it. As she comes back with the food.
Yeah.
But one thing that's really fascinating, what's really great about that is that they also use this part to kind of, the post-healing part, they use it to kind of build on the villains. So how about you tell us about your next top 10 thing?
Okay, what I really liked about this show is just how much depth they're giving these characters. Because they could have had... Our sorcerer was a bully and was trying to annihilate this guy who was in his way.
Mm-hmm.
But we come to find out that so he ends up talking to... Now, okay. Is it episode 2 that ends with a panning shot of the girl with the pants? Like, there's a shot where she's, like, standing on top of a tall spire, very anime style, where she's observing what's going on, and it pans up.
That's episode 2.
So right when they're bringing, just before the spell, right when they're bringing her into to the teacher's house, that's when they witness this. And then, so it's the two of them. It's the purple-haired, katana-wielding, or whatever that long pole... she hasn't drawn it yet, but it looks like a giant katana in a sheath. So I'm going to assume it's a katana-wielding sorceress and the fire mage, who we've already met, are conversing about the situation that they're in, and they are witness to and keeping an eye on Index and this boy that she is spending time with, and how she seems to be enjoying herself with him.
Enjoying herself because they see that Index is... I forget exactly what happened, but Index is once again upset at Kojima, and is currently tackling him
and biting him.
And we see, she seems to really be enjoying herself right now. And it cuts to like an outside shot of the teacher's apartment, and she's grabbing his cheeks and like laying on top of him and
gnawing on his head or something.
Gnawing on his head, doing something. So, yeah.
It's just great. But no, the villains have depth. There's more to them than there is... We are shown that there is more to these characters than just... These are some Rocksteady Bebop-style henchmen trying to do their master's bidding. They have feelings and second thoughts about who they're working for and the methodologies they're using.
Mm-hmm.
And that is drawing me in. I want to see more about why... So these people are sent to do very specific things, and these things are violent in nature and are hurting Index. But at the same time...
Mm-hmm. At the same time, it's
there's more to them than just your standard toughs.
We don't really know if they want to hurt her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was implied that the girl with the katana is the one who ended up doing the damage to Index's back, but that it wasn't intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it was implied.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the fact of the matter is that it happened, and I immediately don't like her because she hurt Index. But I'm willing to find out. There's probably there is absolutely more to the story that I don't know yet. So.
Okay. Yeah. But episode 3, kind of wrapping things along here. Oh, and what's real fast? Go ahead and get your last great things about out, which we did kind of already share. But
okay. So my 5 great things were that their hero has faults and flaws, which I've talked about. The villains have depth, which I just finished talking about. The biting running gag. Now, we've already talked about this, but I didn't explicitly say that this is one of my top 10 favorite things about this show, was that at the very beginning, that our hero intentionally got chased away by the thugs to keep the thugs safe from Railgun Girl.
And then she chased them down and attacked the thugs anyways.
Yes. But he was trying to keep them safe.
Keep them safe
Which
from
just
her.
which just reminds me of Jacuzzi from Bakuna.
Oh, gosh.
Jacuzzi's the best.
I'm not crying. It's a nervous condition. Please, I don't want to hurt you. What are you talking about? We got you outnumbered. Crunch. Ah! Guy reaches down and just breaks not only the guy's hand, but the pistol he's holding in it. I'm not crying. It's a nervous condition. Anyways.
Yes. So there's that. And then the lowly teacher's chain smoking and drinking habits. It's just like, so she doesn't exhibit any of the symptoms that you would expect from them. She doesn't have the voice of a chain smoker. She doesn't have the face of a habitual drinker. Mm-hmm. She's adorable. But she's a slob.
Oh, her apartment's disgusting.
Oh, blooming onion of cigarette butts.
Oh man, but yeah, no.
So those were my 5.
Yeah, those were your 5. But yeah, the episode ends. Kajima's walking down the road, or they're supposed to be going to a bathhouse together.
Yes.
And it's revealed that Index has no memory from over a year ago.
Yes, she remembers that she has this information in her mind. She remembers that she's from England. She has no memory of England, of ever being there, and something happened to her where she has no memory. And as that's revealed, and as they talk about it, Kajima, the hero, starts teasing her and mocking her and being a bit of a jerk.
And she gets upset and bites him again. The scene cuts, and then it cuts back in, and he's covered in bite marks, and he's by himself. She ran off to the bathhouse without him. And then as he's walking along, tending to his wounds, suddenly everything else stops. There's no people, there's no cars. It's just him in this empty block.
Which, if you know anything about rural Japan, or urban Japan, there's no such thing as a place where there's nobody is.
Yeah. And then the purple-haired girl with the katana, she shows up. Once again, her name is Kanzaki Kaori. And she, she pretty much just challenges him right then and there, and that's where episode 3 ends.
Yep. So we're definitely eager to see more of this.
Oh, yeah, I definitely want to watch more. I want to see more of this show.
All right. So does that wrap up this segment?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more we can say about it. I thoroughly enjoyed the first 3 episodes. Great characters, great story. The animation quality is fantastic. The music, actually, parts of it reminded me of like classical music, like when the fire guy, Magnum, when he was casting some of his spells, I could have sworn I heard classical music that had just been ramped up super fast.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to watch more. I think it's fantastic.
Great.
So, okay, and then next week, there's kind of an experimental show that I kind of want to give a try. I'm not sure if it's going to be any good.
All right.
But there's a show on Crunchyroll called Inferno Cop.
Inferno Cop.
Okay.
Why did this catch your eye?
The art style. The art style is very, very unique. It stands out. It looks like if you could take a look at the artwork, it looks like hand-drawn comics.
Okay.
Like American comics and stuff like that. Like, go ahead and see here a lot of the artwork and stuff for the show.
No, yeah.
So it's very, very unique art style. So I don't really know much what I'm expecting, but
it looks like it might be a motion graphic type show.
It could be. It very much could be. But the catchphrase is Inferno Cop versus the World. The Unholy Officer's Flame of Justice Burns. So, and then if we go here and we just go to information, Episode 1, The Badge from Hell, Justice has grown corrupt and evil runs rampant in Jackknife Edge Town. The tortured gasps of the week resound again today. So...
It's okay.
So, yeah. I am looking forward to giving that a try, seeing what that's like. If I don't enjoy it, we won't even watch the first few episodes. If I do enjoy it, then hey, that's something else to add to the queue.
Okay, then. Looking forward to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll bring that to you next week.
All right, that's it for 3 episodes in. How about we then move on to recommendation of the week?
Fantastic. And this week it is your turn, Andrew.
It's my turn. Over the last week, I recently discovered a series on YouTube called Movies with Mikey.
Really?
Let me go ahead and double check the name of the channel here on YouTube. I should have just written it down.
This is quality production right
I know,
here.
right? Okay, Film Joy is the name of the channel on YouTube. Film Joy, one word, and it's a series by Mikey Newman called Movies with Mikey, and he does a fantastic job of humorously, not humorlessly,
Yeah,
humorously,
in a funny way.
In a funny way, he does a great job of breaking down movies and just kind of getting to the nitty gritty about things. Like he did a fantastic video about how Thor Ragnarok is the perfect reboot. He has another video about The Dark Knight in which he contests that Heath Ledger's performance is not only the greatest comic book villain performance of all time, but it's the greatest film performance of all time.
Weren't you quoting this at me before, and you're like, nah, it is the greatest film performance of all time, and I will fight you.
Pretty much. Yeah, fight me. That's not an exact quote, but that's pretty much, he's like, all these great performances, he's just like, yeah, that's good. It's nothing compared to this. Okay, it's the greatest film performance of all time. He does, like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, he's got a great one with Galaxy Quest. Just a fantastic series. Very fun, very enlightened, clever, witty. He does some great ones on Wes Anderson.
Who is a genre unto himself.
Yes, Wes Anderson, and that's something that he brings up. Like, pretty much Wes Anderson is his own genre at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fantastic series, and unfortunately he doesn't have that many followers, even though he's been doing it for about 3 years now.
So go follow him.
Give his videos a try. And this is for you, my brother, as well, because I've been telling you to give him a try. Watch some of his stuff. You'll love it. I guarantee it. But yeah, that's my recommendation of the week. I've been watching pretty much all of his stuff.
Fantastic.
So, I will say it's a little bit sweary from time to time. So it's for older audiences, but then again, usually film theory, film discussions, and things like that are geared towards older audiences anyways.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's my recommendation of the week.
Fantastic.
Give his stuff a try.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the creator shout out. And this week it is my turn. And I want to give a shout out to Stephen Larson of Bike Club, who's currently creating Familiar Spirit. Now, Stephen Larson was in the graduating class of UVU the year before me. And so he was involved with different projects, and so we kind of caught each other in passing. We weren't working on the same stuff, but we were aware of each other and the work that we were doing, and it was great mentoring him from time to time. But no, he was great and was able to do his own things. He currently... he is creating this mobile game series called Familiar Spirit that is supposed to teach positivity, reinforcement, goal setting, and goal achieving. And it's just this fantastic idea, and he's putting together a Patreon page, trying to get some financing for it, and I highly recommend anybody listening to this go to patreon.com/familiar spirit as one word, and take a look at the content he's creating. And if you find it in your heart, uh, become a patron of his.
Good deal.
It'll help out with the production because he wants to give these games out for free. He thinks that what he has a solid belief that what he is creating needs to be out there, and it needs to be something that he doesn't intend to monetize. That he wants people that this is an important enough thing that people should have access to it for free.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody who's created anything knows if you don't have resources to create, it takes much longer, and we want to see this thing come together.
Mm-hmm.
So he's only a couple patrons away from being able to afford his own Adobe Suite account on a month-to-month basis. But the more patrons he gets, the more resources he has to actually finish his project. So
Okay.
so everybody check him out, and I'd really appreciate it if he did. I'm already helping him out, so
Cool.
so I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
Cool.
So you guys go out there and you help him out too.
Awesome. Sounds good to me. Well, I guess that's it.
All right, that wraps us up for this week. I've been Lee,
I've been Andrew.
and we look forward to seeing you next week.
All right. See you guys later.